Hello, everyone, and welcome to A Drink at the Inn. I'm Kieran RH for Wrestle In, and I'm delighted to be joined by probably the UK's hottest independent wrestler. He's the most successful British Cruiserweight champion in RevPro history. He's a former British Tag Team champion. He's a winner of the British J Cup. And of course, he recently had a 5-star match against Will Ospreay for the British Heavyweight Championship at high stakes. I can only be talking about one man, the OJMO, the master of the half crab, Michael Oakley himself. Michael, thanks for being here with me.
Thank you for having me at the drink at the end. I feel more comfortable now having a coffee on the camera now.
It's worked out very well. Yeah. So, of course, to kick things off with the obvious thing, the man at the moment, you are 5 stars with Will Ospreay at High Stakes 2022. It's available on rpwondemand.com. I was there. I loved it. It really felt like the perfect storm. The build to the match ahead of the show, the special entrances you both had, the changed music, the in-rings face-off. It just had a big fight feel that I haven't felt in York Hall for a very long time, if ever. So before we get to the match itself and aftermath, how did you feel going into the match? What was your mindset?
Well, I think the main thing was if we can top the last time we wrestled
in Southampton.
Everything leading up to York Hall was just, that was my constant thought. How can we make sure that we top what people seem to be happy with? I was hoping that the occasion of York Hall would be a big help. I think that alone helped it. And then, like you said, everything leading up to it in terms of not just the promos we did at shows, but then the stuff we put out there beyond Gorilla, and then the special entrances that we produced. I think that helped create that atmosphere of, okay, this is something that's actually cool and it is a happening. And it helped just kind of make everything seem like a much bigger deal. And like you said, big fight feel. That was what we were aiming for. And I'm glad you said you think that we got it.
Yeah, no, hit that target very well. I want to talk about one moment during the match in particular, because you took a horrifying fall. For those that haven't seen the match, Michael is on the top rope facing away from the ring as if you was going to do a moonsault, for example. And Will Ospreay quite simply shoves you off. You go flying over the top corner and you land on a table, except it's not what you would expect when I say a table. It's not a wooden long rectangle table. It's a mini square table that has the championship belts on and the bell on it. And you just hit that thing hard. It was a horrifying sound in the venue. You come up and your face is bloody. So first off, you're effing crazy for doing something like that. But how do you even go about doing something like that? Is it just the adrenaline pushing you through that moment?
Yeah, I'm insane. I think that's the long and short of it. I think I've been known to just take some stupid bumps, and I think like in my head it was what was needed at that moment, at that time, to just have that moment of things going down, but also we're gonna like a moment of shock where things go quiet, but what it does is leads to an escalation with the blood, and it just takes the match to a new level, which needed, because I think I'd already done like the so-called comeback, but then we went. I think when I started bleeding, like it's not even like we're close to the end. I think we nearly go like maybe another 15 minutes after that. So it's like a whole new, chapter begins at that point. And I was just thinking, well, what's a moment that this can happen where like, what makes sense in terms of a moment right there? And I thought it was getting shoved. And I didn't expect, of course you don't plan, this is how I'm going to fall into this stool of a table. I just was looking at it and I was like, that's when while I was looking at it, I was like, actually, how am I going to fall onto this? And I don't know, I do some kind of twisting thing and I just, it's definitely what hurt the most during the match, for sure.
I mean, it looked great, and it's something that I would never want to do myself, and credit to you, but I'm sure you'll be glad to never do anything like that again. But recently, I find myself, and I see fellow fans on Twitter, are getting kind of fatigued at the length some matches go, that there's this need for a big match to go for 30, 40 minutes. I love a good sprint. You've mentioned it yourself on other interviews, and you mentioned it Sunday at the 229. you know, everyone's saying how good your match is, but also check out Gabe Kidd versus Akira, which I thought was an amazing sprint. They just battered each other, got in, got out, loved it. But your match went 41 minutes, but it didn't remotely feel like that. I'm finding so often now that I'm really feeling a long match, and there was, I won't point any fingers, but there was matches on the card that felt longer than your match, and your match went twice as long. So, you know, it was a masterclass to keep us invested for that long and it not feel that long. But how do you keep a crowd invested for 41 minutes? Did you really have to plan it out going in, or was it really just spur of the moment? Did you find it difficult, or?
So I was shocked myself when I came back and I looked at, you know, Gadget's Twitter and it said 41 minutes. I was in a genuine shock because, you know, when putting the match together, it just seemed like, okay, everything that we put together was like, yes, this is needed, this is needed. Everything logically moves to the next thing. That all seemed fine. And there wasn't like, okay, now we can do this and that will stretch the time, or that will kill time. There was never a thought of that. It was like everything we put in there was like seeming like a needed thing for the story of the match and what we needed to do to make it be a wicked match. So I was in shock when, you know, Oscar's telling me there's 5 minutes left and that includes anything post-match. And I was like, what? I was like, okay, well, I guess everyone must have been overrunning or something like that. But then, yeah, to get back and then just hear that it was 41 minutes, I guess that if there's a secret, I guess that's it. Everything in the match needs to be needed. It needs to be vital parts of the match. You can't like repeat or go back to, I guess, let me use the word plot points that you already have before. You can't just repeat the same story. If it's all different and if it keeps escalating, like I mentioned with the blood,
yeah,
that's how I guess you can stretch out the match to go longer. But yeah, I was in, yeah, I keep hearing that it didn't feel like 41 minutes. And it did not feel like 41 minutes for me either.
And of course, you had your family ringside for the match. They were, at least your mother, I remember, was there for your British J Cup win before in York Hall. And they really added to the drama. It made everything escalated. Like you said, it was all very essential to making this instant classic. They were in the ring straight after the match to check on you. And I appreciate if you don't want to pull back the curtain too far, but how much of them how much did you make them aware of what was going to happen in advance? Because speaking of the British J Cup, I remember when Pac attacked you after your win, your mother was furious. And she's either an incredible actress or she was just genuinely really pissed off at Pac for ruining your moment.
Yeah, she's it's all genuine reactions from my mom and my dad, which is also, especially my dad, which is very amazing when we're probably going to talk about it, but the moment that Will Ospreay grabbed Zamira Blair, like the fact that my dad's natural instinct is, well, I'm going through this barricade too, and I'm going to stop Will Ospreay from grabbing this lady. So it's my parents, just all natural reactions from them.
That's amazing. It makes it obviously more genuine. It adds to everything else that's made this such an instant classic, just to know that that's all legit and it's not, you know, okay, Mum, I need you to do this at this time. It's just her reacting because she's seeing her son in arguably the biggest match of his career.
Yeah, that's it. And that's the cool thing. There's moments like even during Will Ospreay's entrance, there's moments where she's just looking at him and smiling and clapping at him because she's just like, all right, go ahead, well done. That's just kind of what she would do. She's like, well done. You're a good wrestler. You're looking at me. Okay, all right. What can I say? What can I say? So it's just it was just added, and you know, it absolutely added to the match. There was always that fear in my head that it would be, you know, it can easily be too much or like too hokey or the wrong thing for the wrong crowd. So I was so glad, and that's probably the thing I was most stressed out about more than anything, would the pro wrestling shenanigans with the sports entertainment ruin the pro wrestling. But, and like you can quote me on this, on the same day as sports entertainment, we did sports entertainment better than
That's a brilliant quote. I think you mentioned it. I listened to your interview post wrestling earlier, and you said how, you know, you had a great match with Will Ospreay already. How do you defeat that? And you add drama, you add the story to it, which is obviously why they were such an integral part to making this match as fantastic as it was, from Blair to your parents being a part of it.
Yeah, exactly that. I think that's, I guess that's the secret, I guess, to all wrestling matches involve emotion, even if it is just two wrestlers in black trunks. That, you know, there isn't if they just stay in the ring the whole match. There's emotion that comes with it, and that's what makes every match a great match. If you can add that added element of other people and do it the right way, then it just makes it better. And to combine the wrestling that me and Will did with the emotion of actual family, which people can relate to, that was just the secret, the key to taking it to the next level.
Yeah, it's very organic. More on the match itself, I think it was Dave Meltzer, of course, who gave it 5 stars, but we'll get to that, who said it felt like a match from the territory days. And I think that really hits the nail on the head. You know, you're the hometown favorite. We've watched you for so long if we've been going to your call, or any RevPro shows. Will Ospreay is this grandiose champion who's gone about the world, and he's now returning back. And it's the returning champion coming back to his turf against the person that's kind of stepped up to the plate whilst he's been away. Was that by design, or was that just happenstance and good luck?
Definitely happenstance and good luck. That's just the reality of the situation. You know, that is just what it is. That's not a fabricated story. Will was the kid on the come up that everybody was behind and loved and was doing big things at York Hall. You know, made it to Japan, did great things in Japan, and like you said, these are just things that just happen to happen. And that, again, like in terms of the story we told, we didn't really fabricate stuff in terms of what we've done in our careers. It's all based on what we've done in our careers. And if anything, the story was, can I take that next step? Can I beat the person who is known as one of the best in the world? So people refer to him as the best in the world. Can I do that? And that story is as old as time. It was a good guy versus a bad guy when it boils down to it. And, you know, we were able to main event your call with it.
Obviously, I've mentioned it a few times already, but just to say it again, this match did get rated 5 stars by Dave Meltzer. And of course, there'll be people who argue and disagree with the rating. They'll say his opinion doesn't matter. It doesn't. It matters in so much as it's going to bring attention to you and Ospreay and the match and RevPro. Regardless of your opinion on Meltzer and his ratings, they garner attention first and foremost. And obviously, wrestling is subjective like any art, but it can't be denied the power of a Meltzer 5-star rating. So what was your initial reaction when you probably listened to the Wrestling Observer, or you logged onto Twitter and first saw that this match got the coveted 5 stars?
Yeah, I mean, that's just, you pretty much said it right there. Like, well, his opinions actually do, like, I've got evidence, and I can't go too much into it. I can't go too much into it, but I've got actual evidence that his stamp of approval of a recommendation of a good match does affect my career, and I know it will, because it's brought way more attention to me and way more eyes. And like, who's this kid who I've never heard of? Like everyone, like pretty much everyone else he's given a 5-star or more to, people know both wrestlers that are involved. They know about the building. They know about the name of the promotion. There's probably people who haven't heard of RevPro. There's certainly people who've never heard of me that are just wondering what's going on. So through that, there's intrigue, and they're watching me wrestle for the first time. And again, like, it's all an opinion, but he's got a respected opinion. He has a powerful platform, a big platform. So having that tip of the cap from him is just, it does mean something. Again, like I said, like, I can't go into too much about it, but like, it's just, from that day on, there was way more buzz than just people talking about, than just fans and wrestlers talking about it. And when he said about the territory wrestling stuff, that was such a wild compliment that I wouldn't have even expected to hear. Because I've heard one person say that when I wrestled, when myself and Mills wrestled the Young Guns in a tag match for the tag titles, they said it reminded them of like territory tag team wrestling. So I would have never thought that I'm a throwback to a time which, mind you, I was not born for. Like, I was not around during the 70s or 80s. I wouldn't have thought that was a throwback to it. But it's a very cool thing that people can watch me who were around for that and say that I remind them of things they used to watch, well, basically when they were a kid.
Yeah, I think that's such a credit to yourself and obviously your opponents in that, nostalgia is such a powerful thing. And that, we always think back to these things and they were the greatest things in the world, even if they actually wasn't. But for you to invoke that in a wrestling match speaks volumes to, how good you are, how good, I love the Young Guns. I know you're up against Luke on at Southampton. And obviously Ospreay. What's that?
You said you're going to be there, right?
Yeah,
Southampton?
Yeah, I'm driving down to Southampton Sunday, yeah. So one final thing on the Ospreay match, less about the match and more about social media. You also had a cheeky little interaction with a certain Kenny Omega, where he downplayed Ospreay getting 5 stars on zero pressure indies and said to you that you should never meet your heroes. To which you had the perfect response saying you're sure The Rock will be cool when you eventually meet him. If you wasn't already, you're now potentially on Kenny Omega's radar. Then again, a wrestler who's called the best in the world. Have you spoken to Omega outside of that interaction before or after?
No. All through Twitter. It's all been through Twitter. So every interaction you've seen with Kenny Omega is the only interactions I've had with him. And it's so funny because it definitely means that he's paying attention. And it definitely means that like I can see what he's doing with Will. He's out injured and he's, throwing jabs at people as someone with buzz. So that match is going to happen at some point. Who knows when, but that match is going to happen at some point. But then to throw in the little shade on myself and as though it's easy to get 5 stars. Like there's that, if you've heard that phrase, like, but can you do it on like a cold night, a rainy night on
yeah, so, right?
So arguably it's harder to for Will to get a 5 stars with me. It's easy to do it. Like the meme is that Meltzer throws away 5 stars if it was in the Tokyo Dome. Mm-hmm. So really, you can argue that the easy 5 stars to do it in the Tokyo Dome was the main event. So for him to do it at York Hall against a dude that's been wrestling for 5 years that nobody's heard of, I'd argue that's more impressive. That's kind of me saying that I'm not, I'm kind of like putting myself down there in a way, but I'm just saying that like, it's just funny how he tried to make it like sound like, oh, it's easy. It's easy to get 5 stars in a small venue.
Well, we eventually need to see if Kenny Omega can get 5 stars when he steps into the ring with you. That's the big test then.
That's it. If he can't do it, then he's not as good as Will Ospreay.
All right, let's move away from high stakes. 5 stars, by the way, in case anyone was unsure. 5 stars. As I said, I was watching an interview with the guys at Post Wrestling, and you mentioned you wanted dibs on a man that's coming to the UK in March very soon, a certain Lio Rush. It goes without saying that as a fan, that's a dream match that I would jump at the opportunity to attend. But why, as a wrestler, are you so eager to step into the ring with Lio?
Again, I mean, he is just a guy that, like, I think the first time I saw him wrestle would have been Ring of Honor when they did the, what did they call it? The Top Prospect Tournament? Top Prospect Series?
Yeah. I know you're on about,
Yeah. Him and Punishment Martinez, who's now Damian Priest, were in that. They might have been the final, funnily enough. And he's just looking at him, he's just like, this guy's unique. This guy wrestles very unique. He's fast. He does moves that you haven't seen before. And then when he moves over to WWE, he's still standing out. When he went back to NXT, he's doing such good things with the NXT Cruiserweight title. Those matches were wicked. And then he just shows everybody it's a hell of a promo too. And I love people. Anyone who's a good promo, you're with me. That's it. So I think that just putting all those things together, we both do the D'Lo Brown style frog splash. You put all these things together, and like I just want to test myself more than anything. This guy who's been to the top in wrestling, if he's coming down to RevPro, which I wouldn't have imagined would be happening anytime soon, I have to think that he's wanting to wrestle me too. Like the list of people, I have to be near the top. And if I'm not, I'm telling him that I've got a cruiserweight title. You have a cruiserweight title. Let's wrestle.
Well, it'd be the opposite way now. You're the 5-star guy. You'll be giving Lio the rub instead of the other way.
That's it. That's why he's actually coming. He's the one.
So one other person I wanted to speak to you about in particular is Jushin Thunder Liger, because you were his tag partner for his final ever UK match that happened just a few months before his retirement at Wrestle Kingdom 14. So was there any particular reason why you were lucky enough to be in that slot as his tag team partner? And then what was that whole experience like, just getting to, not only be Liger's tag partner, but his final ever UK match as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I was chosen to be the guy, to be the last guy. You would think, I don't know, you would think it'd probably be someone who has some kind of connection to his career, someone who's wrestled with someone that he has wrestled. But then I guess it's just kind of like, I don't know if it was Andy's choice. I don't know if Liger had a choice as well in there. I have no idea. But maybe it was just someone on the come up gets I was talking about the rub from someone who's on the way out. It was really like a real like defining thing for me, just to be like, have that stamp of like, of all the people, it's going to be me. I really thought that's okay. I have to make sure that I don't like squander that opportunity. And I have to make sure that A, I deliver a good performance in that match, but then B, onwards, that like I do things so that I can see Liger again. And I can be like, hey, it's me again. I'm even doing better things than before. And like, in a way, not that I'm carrying on his legacy, because I'm not doing that at all, I'd say, but just for that to be like, to have that statistic that I had is I was teaming with him in his last match in the UK, when the UK is the place that he had his excursion when he was a young lion. It's just a wild thing to think about. It was in 2019. That whole year was so wild. And I wasn't even 100% for that match. Like, I had a bad neck injury, but it was just like, I can't, I'm not missing this. I can't say I'm not going to team with Jushin Thunder Liger and let someone else take it. So I had to just, grin and bear it and get through the tag match. And it's just a special moment. It reminded me so much of like Rock Hogan. And that's probably the closest I can get to that moment of like Rock Hogan, which is my favorite match of all time. And just that passing of the torch, and just imagine how Rock was feeling during that moment, and Liger, who I've been watching for such a long time, ever since the Wrestling Channel came to existence in 2002. I'm watching Liger. So it just amazing experience.
Well, you do have a bit of a connection with Liger, at least, because you won the British J Cup, as I said, which Liger was the inaugural winner of. And I want to point out the men you beat to win that tournament, because in the first round, you beat Rocky Romero to make the final, which was then a fatal four-way, and you beat Pac, El Fantasmo, and Robbie Eagles in a four-way elimination match. So how was it to not only win the cup, but to beat four other very big worldwide established names to do so?
Yeah, again, it's just, that's what made that such a special moment, because the whole idea, 2019, everybody saw that as like the rebuilding phase for the British wrestling scene. So it's like, who are the stars that can be brought in? Who are the names? And Andy's always tried to make sure that the British J Cup is as worldwide as possible. So for him to bring in New Japan stars, to bring in it was who Robbie Eagles wrestled? Was it El Cavernario?
Yeah.
To have someone to actually bring people from around the world to be in this tournament. And Amazing Red was in the tournament. And it's just like, I got to meet him, but that was just very briefly, because as well, people forget that I wrestled at Progress the same day in the ballroom.
Really? Right, yeah.
Me and Mills teaming up against Eddie Dennis and Mark Andrews. And I had to just get in a taxi, dive in. And like, I just had a few minutes before I had to have my match. And I was like, handshake, hello, Amazing Red. Nice to meet you. Oh, no. And I gotta go. It was just such a whirlwind of a day in general. And like, to have that match with Rocky Romero was amazing. And then to be in that four-way, and then not only to be in that four-way, but for the crowd to be behind me when I'm in the ring with all those people, that's what means so much. And that's what made it so special, that I was the guy who they wanted to win, and I actually did pick up the victory.
So we've mentioned it a few times, but obviously RevPro have a great relationship with New Japan. Yourself, you're constantly facing big names from Japan. There's 4 young lions that are showing up in RevPro at the moment: Yota Tsuji, Shorumo, Alex Coughlin, and Gabriel Kidd. And I can rather easily picture Michael Oku in the Best of Super Juniors. But where, if you want to say, I understand if you don't, but where do you see yourself in the future, or where do you want to go? Is it New Japan, or is it AEW, or is it WWE, or where is it?
Yeah, I mean, I was told to sometimes to follow the money, but then someone else told me you can follow the money, but what's more important is to follow like what makes you happy, and that's just like enjoying wrestling. And I'm trying to think about where I'd enjoy wrestling the most, or where I think I'm ready to wrestle the most. And like you said, I feel like because I've had this opportunity to wrestle so many New Japan wrestlers, so many New Japan talents, that New Japan would be a great destination for me. Then again, I've wrestled so many people who are in AEW. I've got a few friends who are there in AEW, and I think that they're doing really good things for a new company, like for a new company that's just started to like really like put their stamp on the map as like one of the biggest promotions, biggest wrestling company in the world. That would be a place I like to hold my head on. So maybe those are the two that I'm standing behind, but then at the same time, I still just want to explore the options and travel around the world and see like where independent wrestling is going to go. And once these airways open, because that's really what it depends on more than anything. It's where I'm actually allowed to travel once all the COVID stuff is way more like relaxed and travel is way more easier to go around, because I know Japan's very strict right now. Because I think if it wasn't that strict, I would at least have gone there to visit the country. So I'd like to go there, and then I'll do more stuff in America for sure.
Well, hopefully New Japan will be paying for your ticket to the country. That'd be a nice little bonus.
Exactly.
But
cool.
If it wasn't already clear from the jumper, the towels, New Japan Pro Wrestling is where my pro wrestling love is. And we've mentioned some names already. You've got to share the ring with so many New Japan names. I wanted to just drop a few now. And if you could share, whether it's a little funny anecdote or just your experience in the ring with them, whatever your thoughts are when I mention these New Japan wrestlers that you've stepped in the ring with, starting with the big name, Shingo Takagi.
Well, that's just, yeah. Okay, so that match was the same month that I wrestled Pac. And that Pac match was when I got like a lot of buzz. The first time I got any kind of real buzz at all. And then 3 weeks later, it was the Victoria Warehouse show where I wrestled Shingo. I had, I think, so with the Pac match, I was booked for Southside to wrestle Joey Janela.
Right.
And I was saying to Andy, I'd like to try and do both. And he was like, you probably won't be able to do both because they're in two different towns, and you probably want a lot of time to wrestle, to be prepared to wrestle Pac. Mm-hmm. So I made a decision that I just do the Pac match. So I pulled out of Southside. I felt bad. And I said, okay, this is only going to be one time I pull out of Southside. They need me for another show. And the show happens to be the same time as this Manchester show. And Andy's like, I'm having you wrestle Shingo. I'm like, Andy, I can't pull out of Southside again. Oh, no. I'm going to feel horrible. But he like brokered a deal with them. He sent them some talent, and I was able to do the match with Shingo. And that match was it was so amazing because I was thrown into the deep end big time, but I knew I earned his respect. Like if he'd never seen me wrestle, I knew I earned his respect because he gave me a t-shirt afterwards. He's like, take this t-shirt. I had so much fun. And he came back to UK to wrestle Carl Fletcher. Mm-hmm. And he was so happy to see me. I was like, okay, thank goodness he remembers wrestling me. That's all good. He called me, hey, look, it's the superstar. And I was like, okay, all right, that's cool. So he hits hard. If anyone had any doubt, he hits hard. And but yeah, it was just a very like crazy moment, and I can't wait to do it again because that's what I want. I want to do it again.
We'll pair up the next two together because they're both here on Excursion at the same time. They've been teaming a bit at the moment in RevPro. Yota Tsuji and Shota Umino.
Yeah, so I wrestled both of them in Southampton, in the same venue in Southampton. So Shota, yeah, like I think that it's so interesting because when I wrestled him, he started to figure out what moves he wants to do. It's a very interesting journey to see a young lion go from, here are the set moves that you do, and you're doing this for years, and you're only wearing this thing, and now come to this other country where you're wrestling people for the first time. Build a character, build a move set. So it's very interesting to put a match together with Shota but see that the fundamentals of a young lion, it's just way above anything that you have here, because they really drill things into you at base level. And that's something that I would, even now, would still like to go to a dojo and just learn those fundamentals, because I was able to work with those fundamentals and I produced something really special with him, in my opinion. And Yota Tsuji, similar thing. And he's kind of a bigger guy, but also does a lot of lucha. I think
he loves
his dream,
lucha.
I think
he really wanted
to go to Mexico.
So he's saying his backstage comments how much he wants to go to Mexico, and then they sent him here and he's eating Greg's and Nando's instead of, great Mexican food.
Exactly. He's just like, okay, well, if I'm not going to go to Mexico, I'm bringing Mexico to me. I'm going to wrestle like a luchador. So here's the shooting star presses. Here's all the Rana stuff. So I was really intrigued to just do a few lucha things with him. And then, of course, he does Spanish Fly too. So it's just, he really wants to push himself and just do things differently, which is just really exciting. And that was just a great experience. So I'm excited to see how they develop here, because what's crazy as well is that, you never know how big they're going to be until they go back to New Japan. Because I remember when Jay White did an excursion here.
Yeah.
People were like, oh, he's good. Yeah. He's having good matches. Yeah, all right. Okay. And then he goes back and he's Switchblade, and he's just head and shoulders one of the best guys there. You just never know, but he'll credit being in the UK as where he really developed a lot of stuff and got a lot of information. So I'm just really excited for when they go back to New Japan, how far they'll go.
And when they go back and you're watching them, you can be, I helped him master that, and he does that because of me. You can take all the credit.
All that advice, all that rub, brother.
Speaking about the another young lion, although he completed his excursion here and he's now back in Japan as part of the United Empire, the great Okan.
Oh yeah, there you go. So he was my first RevPro match, my RevPro debut, when they were doing TV tapings for the TV show.
Oh yeah, I was at that.
I was the person that he wrestled, and that was the first time I wrestled before Revolution Pro Wrestling. And I found out about it the day before that I was helping out, set the ring. And Andy was like, after a few, nearly 2 years of helping out at shows, and just be like, hey Andy, so I'd like to wrestle. I set the ring up, and he was like, Michael, are you good? Are you actually good? Like, yes. I was like, okay. You got black trunks? I was like, yes. And he's like, okay, you'll be on the show. Don't worry, you'll have an entrance. and I was like, it was a 4-minute match. It was a 4-minute squash match, but I did enough to impress. Okan was so happy with it. Andy was so happy with it that, it set me off in terms of my RevPro career. I then wrestled him in Southampton in a longer match.
Who haven't you wrestled in Southampton at this point?
Honestly, I don't know. I've wrestled Will Ospreay in Southampton. So it's becoming a real special venue for me, just based off the people that I get to wrestle. So don't sleep on Southampton shows, because there's some big matches that go on there.
All right, back in the UK now, away from the Japanese guys. Obviously, the UK scene was on fire, and then it kind of got extinguished between NXT UK and the Speaking Out, and of course COVID. It meant a lot of big names were now unavailable, but it also afforded more opportunities for guys like yourself, like Callum Newman, like Connor Mills, Dan Maloney, Sunshine Machine, Young Guns. I could go on and on and on and on. All these guys that can now step up, and kind of had to step up to be the new faces of the UK wrestling scene. And I feel like you're very much at the forefront of that. Do you feel like that yourself, that you're one of the faces, if not the face, that's representing the UK wrestling scene?
I feel like that now, for sure, after your call. I really have that confidence in me. When all the restrictions from NXT got put in place, and there was just so much, the scene felt essentially gutted. What I hated was that I was the person that was being pushed to the forefront, because in my head I was like, well, I'm here via attrition. Ideally I'd want all those top talents to be there, and then I'm on the come up, and I'm now mixing up. And they went to be like, well, here's what we've got left, so we kind of got no choice but to use him. I really wanted to make sure that that wasn't a thought in people's minds. It's the thought of, oh, he can hang with the people who were here. But it's come to now the point where people put me in the phrase of dream matches against talent from around the world. Whereas that's what I was afraid wouldn't happen. I didn't want it to be like, yeah, he's good, but he's not as good as the people who we don't have anymore. So that's been the biggest struggle. And it was always in my head that, like, so again, 2019, if I was to say that was my breakout year, I was 2 years into wrestling, and half of those 2 years, well, nearly a year, like, I mean, there was like, I was injured for a lot of it. So I was so inexperienced, so green, literally green. I'd say I'm green now. There's still some stuff I need to learn. I was just like, had that fear of, man, if I'm going to be given these opportunities against these world-class talents and worldwide names, I really have to step up. So I got thrown into the deep end, and luckily I swam. And I'm so happy to see that more and more people are doing that. That, like, you're seeing the young guns doing that. That, you know, you're seeing Sunshine Machine doing that, and you're seeing Mills come into RevPro and do it alongside me as well. I think that's just, it brings me joy. And then I think we're going to see more and more people do that. And as well, I think with Andy, I think what it did do is it forced him to not rely on imports, because he was known as, you know, Andy called into Dream Factory. That was your call, and he bring in any import so that he could bring in, and then it'll be a guaranteed 1,000. But sometimes be at the expense of either building new names or telling good stories. But by focusing on the talent that are local to the UK, he's allowed people to see how good we are. And he's allowed us to become bigger names, which is great, because really, when you look at the high stakes card, yes, we had like LA Dojo guys, but I wouldn't even really consider them like imports. Like, if anything, the biggest import is Will Ospreay from that show. When it comes down to it, he's the biggest draw. But then the rest of the card was filled with people who, during the empty arena shows and a little bit before then, Andy had been building. So it's a real exciting time for RevPro and the scene in general, because I feel like these new names are actually now showing to the world, hopefully to the world, that you know, we can go. We're just as good as anyone else.
You've spoken before about being a skinny kid, and it's something I've had difficulty with as well. I'm just naturally a skinny dude, and although I'm not standing in my trunks half naked in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people like you are, you know, but it's still something that took me time to get comfortable with. And, you know, I put on a little bit of weight, I'm comfortable and everything's fine. But not long ago, you posted on Twitter a picture of yourself when you was younger and a picture of yourself now, and said how, you know, you would have never stood side by side topless with these wrestlers, and now you fit right in. You know, so obviously you're comfortable now doing what you do, but what was that journey like for you to go from presumably a guy that's nervous about his weight to now putting yourself out there for the world to see half naked, basically?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's so, I was just always normally a small kid. I must be just because I didn't eat that much. Like, I knew in the back of my head, I think I always wanted to be a wrestler, but I just didn't. Oh, cool. Well, you know, I know that to look, I don't look like a wrestler. I need to be a wrestler, I have to be big. That's just how it goes, and that's fine. But that also stops me from even starting training. In my head, I was like, well, I can't start training. Let me start getting big first, and then I'll start training. But then all that did was, it just delayed me actually pursuing the dream of becoming a wrestler. So just one day passed where I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna do it, and I'll try and get big along the way. And like, I was getting bigger. Like, so that picture was when I was 18 years old, and yeah, 55 kilograms at 18, which I'm pretty much the same height that I was when I was 18. I haven't really grown in height. So it's wild to me to even think that, like, I weighed that much. And even to this day, like, even now, I'm so much further beyond then. But I know that there are fans that will say, or wrestlers as well, they'll say, you know, he's not believable because his size. He's not believable. I just don't believe him wrestling Will Ospreay. I don't believe him wrestling these bigger guys. And I know that's the case, and that's fair enough. I'm also still trying to get big. I'm not stopping here. But it's just like, it's been the journey of, like, I have to put my head down, and I've got to work out. I have to eat loads. And for some people, that's just easy. I can't explain why it's not easy for me. I really can't. But it's a thing that I'm doing a lot better at. I credit my girlfriend to a lot of it. She just stuffs food in my face and into my mouth, which is a good help.
That's a pretty good girlfriend.
Yeah, that's great. It's great. So she's a big help. But yeah, just the motivation of knowing that like it's still like it's pro wrestling. So I can't just pretend as though having good physique doesn't matter, and I can't say, well, it shouldn't matter. That's what it is. It's so much on bodies and looks, everything about it. So I'm striving to keep getting bigger, and I'm just glad that people are noticing that I'm making that change as well. So yeah, hopefully I get bigger. Maybe, who knows? Maybe I might become a heavyweight. Who knows? One day.
Yeah, I mean, you follow the Ospreay trail of go take over the junior division and then take over the heavyweight division and then seemingly take over the world.
He did it, so hopefully I can do it too.
Okay, Michael, a few rapid questions before we wrap things up. What was the last film you watched?
Cars 2.
2. What was your favorite match that you were involved in from 2021?
Versus Aussie Open at High Stakes 2021.
What is the last song you listened to? Or artist or band or?
It was Smells Like Teen Spirit, but it wasn't the note. There was like some lo-fi version of it. I forgot the name of it. But yes, I listened to lo-fi.
What was your favorite match that you were just a fan of in 2021 that you weren't involved in?
Oh my God. Okay, the first one that comes to mind is Akira versus Robbie X.
All right, yeah. Cool. Mm-hmm. And then, what was the last video game you played?
Oh my God, I've not played a video game in so long. I hate myself.
I saw you was playing trawling back through your Twitter, and you played the Yakuza series.
I haven't gotten through it as well. I'm still on like number 1, which is great. Like, I've got all 6 of them. So I've got like, I'm slowly going through it, but that was a great time just going through that. So the last game, probably Warzone.
So one final question for you, Michael, that we ask all our guests. Of course, we are Wrestle In. So I imagine you have a table at the inn. What meal are you eating? What drink are you drinking? And what 2 wrestlers are you bringing along for company?
Okay. I am having, today, let's have a carbonara. Yeah, let's have a goopy carbonara. And the drink of choice is always a margarita or a tequila-based drink, but it's going to be a margarita. I had one the other day that was rimmed with curry, not with salt, but with curry from the Giggling Squid. It worked. Don't question it. I didn't question it. It worked. And then 2 wrestlers. Ooh. Let's just say alive. If they have to be alive. 2 wrestlers. Man, I really want to have. It's gonna be. I want it to be Will Ospreay and someone who just would be so annoyed at Will Ospreay. Will Ospreay and like Ishii. Which they probably had together, so I can ask how that went, but I need to see it. Like Will Ospreay and Ishii and see how they get on and the 2 polar opposites and how they get on with Denim.
A loud, brash Essex boy and a quiet demeanor stone pitbull that's Tomohiro Ishii.
That's it. That's a dream opponent as well, Ishii. Ishii and Suzuki, opponents of mine. So hopefully that happens one day.
Right, everyone, please make sure you follow Michael Oku on Twitter and Instagram at the OJMO. You can buy Michael's merch at theojmo.com, and he's got a new shirt that's I think it's only available at shoprevpro.com for the moment. Check out the match, of course, the 5-star instant classic on rpwondemand.com. You can get a 2-week free trial, so you don't even have to pay to watch it, but there's so much extra content on there for years back. As Michael was saying, they've had so many imports, guys like Kurt Angle, so many New Japan talents. It's really worth the money. Michael, thank you for being here. I hope I've just hit all your plugs, but if you've got anything else left to say, please feel free.
I think you got them all, man. That's tremendous. I guess I have a YouTube page as well. It's /TheOJMO as well, and I post periodically stuff on there. So yeah, but yeah, by all means, please check out my social media and merch as you name them.
That was a drink at the inn. We are Wrestling, and now we're out.